Hello. Get your official products such as this marvelous t-shirt that I'm wearing or this great coffee mug that I'm drinking out of and many other products with the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis logo at https://www.zazzle.com/store/a-stuff-store and make sure you get your 15% discount today. Hello. Welcome to the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show.
Welcome to a podcast show about stuff. It's the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show. Here's your host, Stephen Davis.
Welcome to the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show. My guest on this episode is the marvelous vocalist, producer, actor, director, and banana pudding jazz impresario, Rome Neal. Hey, Rome, how are you doing today?
I'm doing marv-tastic. How have you been, brother?
Hey, I'm standing on 2 feet up on my own, so I am fantastic.
Great.
One of the things that I said in my opening was that you were a banana pudding jazz. Tell people what I meant by that.
What you mean by banana pudding jazz impresario is that I came up with this idea some years back to do jazz at the world famous New Eureka Poets Cafe. In the process of doing it, I remember going up to Harlem, and each time I would go up there for some kind of business, either I go to the Amsterdam News to put in a ad for a play or something like that we were doing, or go to see a show up there at the National Black Theater, or just being up in Harlem. I had to go to this place called Wimps and get some of their banana pudding. Have you ever been to Wimps?
I don't remember.
It was on 125th off of Fifth Avenue and had this delicious banana pudding. And I would go there and religiously, every time I go to Harlem, I would buy that banana pudding and eat it. Years went by and Wimps went out of business and I didn't have banana pudding anymore. So I ended up having to make my own. And when I started to make it, I decided one night when I was doing my jazz program at the New Eureka Poets Cafe to make some banana pudding and serve it up to the patrons. And that's where it took off. And I've been doing it ever since for now 20 years. Banana pudding, Rome Neal's Banana Pudding Jazz has been in existence for 20 years, 15 years every month, once every month at the New Eureka Poets Cafe. And then when the pandemic happened, I would do it online virtually for 3 years, which was quite a success also. And at one point I would drive the banana pudding around to some of my guests' homes and give it to them so that they can eat it while they were on the air with me for the virtual show.
Now, let me tell you, audience, the banana pudding is good. I was there. So I'm recommending, actually, it is a wonderful destination point when you visit New York.
Yes.
You need to go to that historic cafe that was started many years ago.
Well, on another tip, you said you need to go there. People better get there this week, because this month or next month, because we're going to be closed for about 2 to 3 years for renovations. There's a $20+ million renovation project that's going to take place and build our upper floors with dressing rooms, performance areas, new bar, and all that good stuff. So we're looking forward to that. But we'll be closed for a while. So telling people this month of October into late October, come to the New Eureka Poets Cafe and get what you can out of it, the spirit of the place, because it won't be around for quite a few years before we come back with it. And it should be different, but the spirit will always remain. We've been there for 50 years doing the arts theater, poetry, jazz. And it's been a wonderful happening for me as an artist who came in as an actor in the early days. And I was doing a play, I was casting a play by Miguel Pinero. Miguel Pinero?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he
He
wrote
was the one that started. Was he the one who started Norican Theater?
he was one of Miguel Algarin actually started it. Miguel
Oh,
Pinero
yes,
was
yes. I knew it was
one of the
Miguel.
founders of it. And but Miguel Pinero, he did the movie Short Eyes,
Oh, yes, I remember
very
that.
well received.
Yes.
And it went to public theater, and from the public theater to I think it went to Broadway, and then on to be made into a film. Yeah.
Nice,
So
fantastic. But now let me start off with the beginning.
mhm.
When before there was a Rome Neal, there was no world. And then Rome Neal appeared. Where did he appear at? And I'm not going to ask you how long ago. I'm just going to ask you where.
I tell you, I'm 71 years old this month. Yeah, so I'm very blessed, and it took me some time to realize that I was this old because I feel so young, and internally, physically, I just feel good and feel like the same Romeo that was here from a child doing the things that I love to do, like children like to play, and having the facility to play with in theater and jazz and things of that sort. So
Hey,
I've been around. I was born in Sumter, South Carolina, and my mother, who was a single parent, raised us as we left South Carolina and moved up north, and lived in almost every borough except for Staten Island.
okay. Now let's go back to the South Carolina part. You said you were from Sumter. Uh, uh,
Sumter, yes.
my story is my grandmother grew up in Vance, South Carolina,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
my father was born in Vance, South Carolina. And when her sister opened up a juke joint in Sumter,
Jumping.
she went to Sumter. And then I had an uncle, her younger brother, he was on a farm in Vance and he broke his leg. And so he couldn't work. So they
Hmm.
sent him to Sumter to go to school. And then he eventually went to Allen University.
Oh, wow.
He just and the sad part about it, he just died last year, this earlier this year or last year, and he was 103 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Amazing.
So now you moved to New York.
Yeah.
Um, well, how was that experience moving from the South to the North?
I didn't know too much about it because I think I was like 1 year old, two the most, a baby coming up here basically. And it was all on my mother, and she had my older brother who's now deceased. And she brought us up north, and where she had a couple of her sisters that were living up here. And we lived with them for a minute, and then she found a space for us to live in. And we from there we just started expanding. The family started to expand. I have 7 brothers, and brothers and sisters all together. So it was 8 of us.
Oh, you had a basketball team plus three, huh? Three
Yes, yes,
reserves.
yes.
Now, what area did you move to when you first came to New York?
The Bronx, yes. Yeah, the
Isn't
Bronx.
it amazing how they call it the Bronx? Every place
The
else is
Bronx.
Manhattan, but this the Bronx.
Yes.
What part of the Bronx were you at?
South Bronx.
South Bronx. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, my family came to Harlem. They moved to some of them. My mother's family was in the Bronx also, but most of them moved from into Harlem, and then they moved just Queens, and then some of them moved to Long Island as they got a little bit more prosperous.
I don't know how prosperous we got, but because we were like a very poor family, but we moved to Harlem. We moved to 131st Street. I could remember being on 131st Street and was it, and now it's Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, but then it was Adam Clayton Powell is between is Lennox and Adam Clayton Powell, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I was living on 131st Street in a very small tenement building, and on that block there was a funeral home that was across the street, and it's weird. And I think when we were young kids, we had our way of just traveling throughout the neighborhood and nothing happening to us. Because I think I wasn't even in first grade then, but I was going to the neighbor's house across the funeral home across the street, and the white family who owned the funeral parlor, they would just take me in, give me cookies and things like that. And then I had other friends up the block, older folks, people that were probably our age, that took me in and treated me good, gave me candy, cookies, and what have you. And I just went about my business. And then I remember my mother used to send us out to church on St. Nicholas, what's it, Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard. They had so many churches along there, that route. And I would go, she would give us a quarter or something, and send us out to church. And I don't know why she sent us out, but she would stay at home, but she sent us out to church. So we went to a couple of churches, and then me and my brother, and then we went down to 125th Street to the Penny Arcade that was next to the Apollo Theater. And we took a nickel or something, played Penny Arcade, then came back home. But we had gone to those churches. So we got our little religion in as we were supposed to.
You know what's amazing? I'm sitting here smiling, and I'm smiling because of two things. Number one, I tell you, my grandmother was from Vance, and I'm sure she moved to some other places until she finally settled in a place that I could remember. Guess what street it was on?
What street?
Yeah, guess what street it was on?
Yeah, I can't guess.
It was 131st Street.
Oh no.
I was on 25 East. My grandmother was on 25 East 131st Street between 5th and Madison.
Oh, 5th and Madison, and that's down the, yeah.
And across the street was PS 133.
Okay. Whoa. Wow. Whoa. I'll tell you another thing. After living on 131st Street, then we moved down to 117th Street in the place called the Dewey Square Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, another little tenement building that was right around the corner from Mitten's Playhouse.
I was gonna say that, but it was 117th, and so that means it was 117th and Lenox.
No, 107 between 7th and 8th Avenue.
7th and 8th Avenue. My other grandmother and grandfather lived
Don't tell me they live right
15th Street at the Stephen Foster apartment projects. At the time, it became the Martin Luther King projects, but at the time it was the Stephen Foster apartments projects, and it was on 115th and between 5th and Lenox.
But we grew up in the same neighborhood, just about. So here I am. I think I was 1 year. I remember being 1 year old in I think it was PS 9 across the street from us. That was the public school. Because I still find it hard to believe that at that age I had a paper route. I was going to the different bars and things, going to sell newspapers at 5 cents. And I would go to around the corner to Mitten's Playhouse, and they give me an extra nickel, the people that were frequenting the bars. And I thought I was really getting 100% profit from my newspaper route each time I got an extra nickel from these folks. And then I would go up to Sugar Ray Robinson's bar, Count Basie's bar. I went all up there. That was my paper route as this young. I think I must have been about eight, no more than 9 years old, going up the avenue selling newspapers.
As a matter of fact, I also went to school. My father was military, so I traveled. We were all over the world. But when we couldn't go places with him, we would come back to New York and what my mother did was, my grandmother on 131st Street was the religious person. So when you said the churches on Seventh Avenue, she went to a church on Seventh Avenue because
Oh, of course. Yeah.
it was a Sanctified Holiness Church.
Yes.
Bishop Hicks was the bishop. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That just came up. I never remember that until just now. But
You see?
anyway, he was the bishop. And my other grandmother and grandfather were the party people. They had the jobs and stuff, but on Friday nights to Sunday, it was party time, and everybody that was in the vans who came from South Carolina in that area would be over that weekend.
I know I remember those parties on 117th Street. Moms and they used to get us out there and get us to dancing for them and stuff. And I remember the people that used to be in that area. I think I recall Jackie Wilson showed up at one of her friends' house, and I saw him. I recall seeing Jackie Wilson there. I recall they had the movie theater that was across the street, the Regan RKO. Yeah, that's where I actually saw Jayne Mansfield from the outs. They had a big opening and stuff, and there was this blonde, a platinum blonde, beautiful lady walking into the theater, and I was in awe of that. I remember sneaking into that theater on the side. You had a can opener. You put the can opener in the door, and you could open that door and slip into the movie. The RKO Regan.
That was the time. Now, what junior high school did you go to in high school?
I went to 170 junior high school, 178 in.
Okay, by that time you had moved to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Then I was in Brooklyn. After 117th Street, we moved with the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. I think 4th Street, 10th Street, and 4th Avenue. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Over there, we had a little private housing facility over there for a minute. And I recall that was the first time I think I felt a little bit of racism because there were little Italians up in there. And one time I was coming from school, and these little white boys called me the N-word, but that was just a mild taste of it because the neighborhood that I lived in was basically all white, and we all got along, or they all got along with us. We didn't stay there that long, about no more than a year or two the most. And then we moved to Bed-Stuy, and that's where life took on another dimension for me.
What part of Bed-Stuy?
Prospect Place between Ralph and Buffalo Avenues.
Oh, okay. I know it well.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that it's for our audience to know that both of us are talking to each other from Brooklyn.
That's right.
It's still back not too far from that where you're talking about.
That's right. Well, I'm in Fort Greene now, but I lived in Bed-Stuy most of my life in that particular area, which is now, they've got a very famous building that on Buffalo Avenue over there.
I don't know it.
It'll come to me, but yeah, it'll come to me. But it's a very famous building. It was a hospital over there. Then they.
You mean Buffalo and Fulton?
No, Buffalo between Prospect and Park Avenue.
Oh yes, I do know that building.
Yeah.
Can't remember it, but I do remember that building. It was not too far from Interfaith.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
okay.
It was wonderful revisiting that Weeksville. That's
Weeksville. Okay.
Right. It was wonderful revisiting that as this art complex and just going in there, taking in that energy. The area I used to, every once in a while, I drive by that block and just stop in front of it and just take in the ambience of what I was doing there when I was a child, sleeping out on the stoop, listening to music during the summer. We had some fun as children in that area.
And those were the days, we always say this, but it was true, that if you did something wrong on the block, you got your behind beat by whoever lived on the block because they knew your parents. They would take you home, and then you get beat again.
You had some really caring. My mother was one of them. She was like, Miss Irene, you do not mess with her.
I can remember coming up one summer to work and for the summer, and that was the summer that they did the concert in Mark Morris Park with Sly the Family Stone that
Oh, that big song.
Love
Yeah.
has done.
Yeah.
Has yeah. I was up in a tree that day.
Oh, wow. Wow. I was wondering where I was at that time, but
Oh.
probably some basement with some girl or something like that. I don't know.
Now, while you were in high school, did you have a job or you just went to high school and hung out?
I did a little bit of both, but I was a hustler. I was really a hustler. I used to sell watches from the factory, electric knives and things like that. My stepfather would bring them back from the factory and kept me in business that way. But that was my thing, and that kept me with some fine dread clothes on, the silk rayon pants and the alpaca sweaters and the blue suede shoes and stuff like that, and aquasquare and the hats with the curves in it and stuff. I was really a hustler, and I like to look good and dress good and eat good too. So I was having fun. And then because I was stylish, I got into fashion and became a little sort of a model because that time we had little fashion shows in the clubs and things. So I got into modeling, and then from modeling, I got into actually designing clothes. I started designing all my clothes and designing clothes for other people. And that was my hustle because I was making clothes for people in the neighborhood, the women, the men, and I would make enough money to get me by. One year, I was when I graduated from high school into college. My first year in college, I did a fashion show down at downtown Brooklyn at New York Technical College. Now it's named New York Technical College. Before it was New York Community College. So I did a fashion show there, and it was heralded by the New York Daily News, Rome Fashions, new trend coming up, because I did the patchwork thing, polyester, and you patch it on here, patch on there. And people didn't realize when I was patching things on, that was usually a mistake that was made or a cut that was wrong. You give it a patch and all of a sudden you got a new design there. And I hooked up with some brothers, Dexter Abernathy and Marcellus Christian, the Black Opposite too, and they were designing two clothes also. And I do the fashion shows with them and got turned on to their people, like the Moments, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Delphi, all those cats, man, would come in there and I would hook up with them, and I'd go backstage to the Apollo Theater one day with the Moments, and we sit down and talk and stuff. But the fashion and what's it, Black Ivy, that group, I remember. If you see some of the videos, you see some of those designs. It wasn't specifically my design, but the style that I was designing clothes in, that was it. And my frame went usually out to a lot of the people in my neighborhood, family members and things. It really kept me going. And eventually, when I was in New York City Technical College or community college at the time, got a small scholarship to go to Ghana, West Africa for the summer. And that changed my life because when I went there, I took as many of my fashion as possible to Africa. And I was doing fashion shows over there while I was over there in Africa and had a lot of fun. And I was trying to learn some things also because I was looking for what I call the true religion. Who's the true God? And in that search, I had a couple of classes that was supposed to lead me in that direction, which it really didn't, because when I went over there in Ghana, I saw nothing but churches, Protestant, Baptist, Catholic, and all these other type of churches. But I didn't find this ultimate religion or ultimate church that I was looking for to find in Africa, the cradle of civilization, supposedly, right? But going back to fashion, while I was over there, I did a couple of fashion shows. Then I used to go every summer. I used to go to Africa because I loved it, and I had a little business dealings that I had with the clothing and things. And I would take these. Remember the high heels with platform shoes that we had here?
Yes.
It was big. By the time it was going down here, it was big in Ghana. So I used to take the platform shoes by the droves and take them to Ghana, and I would make a mint selling platform shoe fashion design, and I take care of my whole vacation while I was over in Ghana. So I had a really good time, and used to go to Ghana for every summer for about 5 years straight. I used to spend my summers in Ghana, and I loved it. And I think it was maybe the last time, or close to the last, the second year, third year, fourth year, I got the chance to stop off in Nigeria, and I got a chance to hang out with Fela Kuti.
Yeah. Before you get to that, I want to ask you, I wanted to say something, and I wanted to ask you something. It's something that you said earlier that was so important. And the interesting part about it is that I was reading about it just before you got on the air.
Whoa.
And it was a video of Herbie Hancock talking about being in the band with Miles Davis one time. And it's a big show. And it got to a point where Herbie Hancock said he hit the wrong note and he knew it. And it was like, oh no. And Miles paused for a moment, he said, and then started playing.
Yes, I remember that.
It covered that mistake up. Instead of saying, oh, you made a mistake, he just created music on that.
On top of that mistake,
right,
yeah.
with that, what he said. So in essence, he was saying the same thing that you were saying, that when you put the patch on,
yes,
you don't look at it and say, oh, I made a mistake here. You said, okay, how can I enhance that so that it looks good?
With it, yeah. That's the essence of jazz anyway. Not all mistakes, but jazz is improvisation, and you're not gonna. I just went to a club last night and I was singing this song, Gregory Porter's On My Way to Harlem, up in Harlem, with Gregory Porter's piano player, Chip Crawford, playing the piano. So he knows the tune very well. And I got a chance to sing it with him, and I was like blown away because it was so laid back. I've done it with other piano players, but to do it with Chip, who's been playing this at Gregory Porter's concerts for years now, and helped to create that song with him, it took it to another level. And I was just, it was perfect. I wish someone had recorded that moment, because it was a perfect moment in Harlem, USA, singing On My Way to Harlem with Chip Crawford last night. I just loved it. I loved it. And we were no rehearsals. We just came together and just did it.
Congratulations.
Give the bass player the notes, give the drummer the beat, give the horn player, you go and do your thing, and it was magic.
Now, what I wanted to ask you was, you mentioned very briefly high school, and then you went to New York Tech. What high school did you go to?
Thomas Jefferson High School, yes.
Thomas Jefferson High School.
Oh,
now,
no.
Most people don't know that, and I see reruns on it, that Welcome Back Kotter, that was Thomas Jefferson High School.
I didn't know that myself.
Oh, yes, that was Thomas Jefferson High School. And when that came out, I was working for a finance company over in East New York, and I would give speeches at Thomas Jefferson High School for the kids.
Oh man, we just traveling. We bumping heads left and right and not even meeting. This is amazing.
That was, and I was a principal for a day there.
Oh wow!
long time ago. Now
that was a great school. I remember Thomas Jefferson High School very well. I went out for the football team, and I stayed there for about I was all suited up and everything, and got out there on the field, and figured out, I said, this is a bit much for me. I don't want to get hurt out.
I did an event at Fort Thomas Jefferson that we put on a softball exhibition, and we played against WBLS, Brother Fatim, and who else? It was Bob Slade
Yeah.
led it. That Bob
Okay.
Slade led it,
Yeah.
and wow, we got our butts kicked royally. But see, I didn't know that Brother Fatim was trying to go out for baseball at that time.
Okay.
Not at the team, but on a professional level.
Okay. That's what he was. Yeah, but I love Bob Slade. God bless his soul. He was one of the greats. He was one of the greats.
Yeah, Bob, I really enjoyed Bob Slade and Tume and a lot of those guys that was at WBLS. And one of my good buddies was Percy Sutton.
Yes. Yeah.
So miss him terribly. But now you said you went to New York Tech. Did you graduate?
And New York Tech, yeah. From New York
Okay.
Tech, I went to, like I said, we got a scholarship from New York Tech to go to Ghana. And then after I got back from Ghana, I went on to Baruch College for
Ah,
my BA. Oh, no.
intersecting. I went to Baruch. And I had a friend of mine that I did a show with her last year or earlier this year, Diana Ziegler.
Hmm.
Diana graduated from Baruch College.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And I remember back in the days going to the classes on 24th Street.
That's right. And the student was the student activity building.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. But I also remember that what that was funny is that professor came in and told us what books to go buy, but he didn't seem organized and he didn't really know what was in the book. So I said, "Why should I buy a book that if he don't know what's in it?"
I would say that that was a wonderful experience. I took business course, business retailing and management, and hopefully that was going to lead me into my career, which was going to be retail business. This idea that I wanted to get into business and I wanted to deal with retailing. I wanted to deal with clothing. So while I'm at Baruch, I took an acting class, 101 acting class, and that turned me out to becoming an actor and loving it. And I wrote a play called God Made Man in His Own Image that I had presented at Baruch College in the big auditorium on 23rd Street for all the students during student activity hours. And I directed it, I produced it, and lead acted in it. And the auditorium was packed and with a lot of friends. And I got 3 credits for that course. And she gave me a B. I was pissed because I thought I should have got an A for all that work. But I took the B for the course. And that one play that I wrote just set me up to just enjoy theater and acting. And from there, when I left Baruch College, I went on to do a thing. I had a choice either to go into the business world or into the arts of theater. And for some reason, I chose theater because they had a facility in Brooklyn in in Tompkins Park, now called Herbert Von King Park. They had a facility there that had the UB Blake Theater within it, and they said you can go down there and you can teach theater. I didn't know that much about teaching theater, but I knew more than anybody else in that neighborhood because I was taking classes in Baruch. So I went there and I taught theater for 4 years. I produced plays, I acted in plays, I put together 2 of my one act plays, God Made Man in His Own Image, and Disco Is Just a Fad, but the Party Lasts Forever. And then I had opportunity to cast and not cast some good people who came through the Parks Department at that time. I remember one day Lawrence Fishburne, young actor, came into the audition for a part, and I was like, "Why is he here? He's been in little movies and things." But his aunt said he wants to constantly keep working. That's why he came out to audition. He didn't stay with us, but he came by to audition. That was good. And then from there, it just took off. Just had a great time just working with the community. And from there, I went to, I think, you know what happened? I can't be too shy about this. I wanted so much for that parks department. When you're young and you want things to happen, and people, the higher ups, are not doing what they're supposed to do. I needed lights for my theater. I needed to clean the theater, clean the space and stuff. And I went to the assistant commissioner, and I said, "Listen, I need these lights for my theater, and you haven't done nothing." I went down to the main office in Central Park. And this guy got the nerve to say, "Rome, you've been at that park department for 4 years and you haven't done nothing." I said, "What? You haven't done nothing?" And I said, I thought to myself, I did a play with senior citizens that went to Broadway for a night. I bused up senior citizens and had them on Broadway. I had children theater. I had adolescent theater. I had professional auditions for my theater. I had a program for 4 years, and he told me that all I wanted was some lights for my theater. I was so pissed off. Anyway, I came back to my job, and I found out that, okay, the CETA program, which was at that time, and it was supposed to be just for 4 years, they brought me up and said, your CETA program is terminated. So when that ended, I ended up coming to Manhattan and auditioning as an actor in plays at Theater for the New City. And then I ended up with a part at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe on the Lower East Side, played by Miguel Pinheiro, entitled New Eurekan Nights, directed by Miguel Algarín. And that started a whole new world for me.
Okay. Now, what you said you had a decision to make between business and creative side of you.
Yeah.
I've always found that although I never had any inkling or want to be any kind of performer, I was in some parts in terms of the creative side, management or something like that. But I've always found that it was always good to have both, because you needed to understand the creative process, but you also needed to understand the realities of money.
Oh, yeah. True.
You know, putting together a budget, not spending more than you take in.
Right, yes.
And that the advantage of what you did in terms of having both sides of it had to have helped your career tremendously.
It did help me sustain myself because, like you said, the two words is show business, and you got to be you could be as much show as possible, but you have to take care of the business to survive out here. And I was able to take care of the business and promote shows and produce shows. And God's been with me in that respect to keep me going, to continue to do my craft and make money doing it. Not as much as I want, but I'm happy, and I feel like I've been a success in what I've been doing all these years. And it's been a wonderful journey.
Success is what you make it. You know.
Yeah, well, I made it, baby. I made it. I made it. I've done some great things.
Now, what I ask people a lot that are into the entertainment field.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the first time that you faced an audience?
I think the first maybe was when I did one of those first fashion shows. Maybe I donned on some fine clothes and walked out there, and walked the aisle and show my little modeling steps. I think maybe that was it that I could recall.
Do you remember how you felt when you first walked in front of the audience, looked out into the audience, and everybody's waiting for you to say something?
Yeah, I felt nervous. That's all. I can't go back to it, and pinpoint that true feeling, but I know it was a nerve-wracking experience to a certain extent. Yes.
Yeah, but it's also it's nervous, but once you get out there, it's euphoric.
Oh yeah, you're in the zone. Then you just take off and you become whatever it is that you set out to be in that space and time. And
okay,
my being was to be the most beautiful black man in the world walking the floor
Now, let's take that a step further. The first time that you walked out in a play,
in a play.
in a play.
Oh, what was the first time I walked out? Oh, it was at Baruch College. Oh, wow. I think I was a little nervous because it was about learning lines in the beginning. And for me, if you don't know something, that's when you get the most nervous. If you really know what you're doing, it's hard to even be nervous because you're popping it off. Those words, the expression, the character, and your being. But if you are unsure about the next word that you have to say, or you can't remember, your mind goes into a zone someplace that will never come back, and you're lost out there, and you really get nervous.
And today, even if I wanted to be an actor, that would be my fear of going out, having this wonderful line to say, and then forgetting what the hell I was supposed to say.
You know, I've been there a couple of times, you know, but not all lines. You forget a couple of lines, but then you just make it up as you go along. I saw one of my understudies, the play that we have up now, Ishmael Reed's the conductor. We let the understudies go on, and this understudy, he was hyped up to do the part, and he was ready to go, and he was ready to turn it out. He was so hyped up that when he got on stage and he was doing good, and then something happened. I think he had some cue cards that was on the stage, and they got mixed up. And we, the audience, I know I could because I know the play. He could see he was like fumbling around, and the other actor didn't know how to get him back in, didn't know how to feed him the line and give him back. Said, "What you doing? What you doing?" And the poor guy had to fish around for a few minutes, and they finally got it, and they came back to the play. But yeah, that can be a nerve-wracking situation for anyone because it takes you out of your character. You're no longer telling the story. You're trying to get your story to be told, and it shows on you. No actor wants to be the understudy for the show because I was that. I don't tell nobody to do no more than what I would do. I did a couple of shows that I've directed that I didn't have understudy, so I told them I would be the understudy. Of all the other things, producing, directing, I would be the understudy for their character. And I've done that quite a few times. But one of the shows that I feel very blessed about is a play that I did called that I directed called Don't Explain, about Lee Morgan, the jazz trumpet player. And when I did that play at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, first I want to say the play was nominated for 7 Adelco Awards. And it won all seven awards, including for the lead actor, the lead actress, myself, the director, the sound person, the light person. We won all these Adelco Awards. It was a fabulous play. I understudied for the lead actor, and the lead actor was none other than Ron Cephas Jones.
Peace, rest in peace.
Yes, that's my brother. I call my superstar brother. He started with me at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe in that first play that he did, and his life took off from there. Mm-hmm. From there, he went on to become a major film star, Broadway star, winner of 2 Emmy Awards for the TV show This Is Us, and just a dear friend, dear brother, forevermore. So Ron needed an understudy, and I took on his part to be his understudy. And I want to tell you that it was a lot of fun being Lee Morgan, but trying to be Ron Cephas Jones is no walk in the park. The guy is a pure actor. He was so intense, and I had to bring all that stuff out to my character. But I don't think I missed any lines in it, but I just had fun being that understudy and doing what I had to do with that part. But I really appreciate people who do understudy, and it just takes you, the actor, to another level of understanding the craft and being patient with what you do and making it the best that it can be. And I just had a great time with that particular part. And I understudied a couple of other characters too. And sometimes I understudied where I had to move a character out of the play because they weren't acting right, but that's another story.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the movies that you have been in?
I was in the movie called Pinero about Miguel Pinero, starring Benjamin Bratt, Giancarlo Esposito. Benjamin Bratt was Miguel Pinero. Giancarlo Esposito was Miguel Algarín. Mandy Patinkin was in it. He played Joe Papp. So many great people were in that film. Then I was in Spike Lee's Mo Better Blues. I was one of the just people that was hanging out at the club. I was in Spike's, a couple of Spike things. Spike's She's Gotta Have It, the TV series. I was in there a couple of times. I've done Hamlet, the film, with Ethan Hawke and Liv Schreiber, and it was directed by, I can't forget my brother's name. Anyway, it was directed by a fabulous director who brought me on board. And after seeing me play Mark Antony in my adaptation of Julius Caesar set in Africa at the New Eureka Poets Cafe, Michael Almereyda, he said, Rome, I got a part for you to play in my film, Hamlet, with Ethan Hawke. I know you can do it. It's not a big part, but I want you to play Bernardo, the guardsman. And I said, okay, no problem. And I came on board with a wonderful cast, Bill Murray, and so many great people were in that particular film. So I feel very honored. I got to know Ethan Hawke, who was one of the chairpersons of my Banana Pudding Jazz anniversary shows, and he came down and showed a lot of love. You know, so those were a couple of films that I did, yes.
Okay. I want to give you time to talk about your family. I know you go on for days and days. Just a small shout out to your family.
Well, I want to shout out to my wife, who this year, for 49 years, we've been married. And she's been really the rock of keeping the whole family together. Her name is Sue Neal. And like I said, this was a young, innocent, as she said, I was young and innocent then. I said, maybe young and ignorant then, because you ended up with me. But she was a young, innocent Chinese girl, and she fell in love with me. I fell in love with her. We ended up getting married and had our first child, Rome, named Rome. And we were young and in love and married and just trying to make our ways. And we made our way straight through 5 kids and 4 kids and 5 grandkids. And it's been a wonderful journey. My sons, everybody's got their own homes, basically, and maybe 2 fortunate to have. And I have a daughter who's Leah Neal, who's a 2-time Olympic swimmer from the 2012 and the 2016 Olympics. And now we just went back to do her 2nd year at Harvard MBA program. No longer swimming. She says she's retired from swimming because 8 years was enough of grind to pull that off. And then I have grandchildren who are athletic, playing basketball at 13 years old and 14. And then my one of my grandsons, Rome Jin, named after me, he is a swimmer also, and he looks like he's going to be a champion swimmer, at least get him a scholarship to go to college and beyond. And they like sports. The little ones, they like playing basketball and soccer and stuff. So everybody's got this competitive edge about them, and they just have fun doing that. And my son, Rome, who's my oldest, he tended to go in a little bit in his dad's direction because he started a documentary on Black theater. And he's been working on that. And maybe it's something we could talk about later because this is called the Black Theater Project.
Yes,
He's
yes.
in the process of raising the funds for that one because it's going to be mammoth when it's presented. We've got people who've been interviewed like Ruben Santiago Hudson, Keith David, Danny Glover, just the list go on of some wonderful people that's part of the documentary that he has labeled and picked up. And most of them are friends of mine. I asked them to come on board, and they came on board and gave awesome interviews about their life in theater and what theater means to the Black community. Woody King Jr. was one of them also. And we're looking forward to that to happen in the near future. Of course, like everything is consistent on raising the right amount of funds for it, but the vision is mainstay. And one of the people that we're looking to get, we know we got her already. She says she wants to do it. She just got to clock in. Sonia Sanchez, who knows about the Black arts movement, that we want her to share that with the documentary also. So I'm proud of Rome Ken Neal, who is spearheading this documentary on Black theater. And the reason why he's doing it is because he's been around his dad so long and dad doing theater. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, number one, you just jogged my memory in terms of Sonia Sanchez. I hadn't seen her in a long time. I remember when she used to have an apartment. I don't know whether she still do have one in Lenox Terrace while she was still living in Philadelphia.
If she's smart, she does. If she's smart, she does, because those apartments are going for a woof. Some money.
I want to know about your future endeavors before we end, but I also would be remiss if I didn't give you a moment to talk about the play Monk.
Okay. Monk changed my life. Here is this actor, director, received in the community, again, winning Adolco Awards for productions like Shango de Ima, which was nominated for 12 Adolco Awards and won all 11 Adolco Awards at the Apollo Theater in 94. Julius Caesar Said in Africa, plays by Amiri Baraka, plays by Ishmael Reed, and just doing theater and loving it. And then along comes my good friend Lawrence Holder, who I directed a couple of his plays also, who knew that I did a reading of his play called Monk and Bud, but never got to see me do that reading, but heard about me and knows me. It came to me one day and said, look, I always wanted you to play my monk character. I'm going to write a one-man show about Thelonious Monk, and I want you to be that character. So he wrote a one-man monk play for me. And like I said, that changed my life. I really didn't know who Monk was. This was some 20-something years ago. I didn't really know who Monk was. 23 years ago, I didn't know. He wrote this play, and he said he dingled in some tunes, some monk tunes. He said, you don't have to play them, you can just hum them. And I didn't even know how to hum them. I didn't know nothing like that. And he said, you'll get it. And then I was reading it and was reading it coldly. And people were telling him, say, oh, wow, he looks like Monk, but he's not doing too good of a job up there with these readings. And Lawrence stayed with me, and he co-directed it with me and co-produced it with me. And we came through with a one-man tour de force, Thelonious Monk. And it just blew my mind, because then it gave me a love for jazz like I never had before, understanding for jazz, the jazz artists like I never had before. It had me going out to clubs all over the city, basically up in Harlem, to check out the jazz artists and see how they talk, how they walk, how they play, how they enjoy themselves, how they enjoy the audience that comes in. And I got it, and I put it all into this being and became Thelonious Monk. Um, was not an easy trip because you have to learn all those lines for one. And Lawrence kept changing the script up on me, kept changing the script up. Because we had three stage readings of the play at the New Eureka Post. We said we're going to set ourselves up in 4 months to present this show. We're going to do, each month we're going to do a reading, and then after that, we'll get notes from the audience, and then we'll go back and work on it and bring something else out. So each reading brought out new notes and new words, and we finally got a draft that we were ready to go with. We opened up, I think it was February 2000 at the New Eureka Poets Cafe, and that was it for us. And so many great people came to see it. One of the persons that came to see it was none other than Max Roach, who was sitting in the audience one night, and he had these Japanese folks around him and brought a whole group out. And after the show, Max said, "Man, you were Monk up there. I know Monk. I played with him." And I was blown away because that night when I was talking in character, I had to say his name. Max Roach is one of the people who was close to me. I had to say in character in the play, and I looked straight at Max, and the name just went out of my head. I felt so bad, but he gave it to me. He gave it up. You had people like Ruby Dee, Ossie Davis came, and they gave me my props. Ruby Dee said, you were like Paul Robeson doing a ballet up there. I was just blown away, and Ossie said, "Good work, young man, good work. Keep up the good work." And I just feel blessed with Monk and what it's done for me, because it opened up the world of jazz for me, which opened up the world of jazz for so many other young artists who came my way, because I was able to turn a lot of people on to the music, and new musicians that people have never known before have come through Romeo's Banana Pudding Jazz and have made a name for themselves and taken it to another level and continue to. And people come to me every day saying, it was you doing that play or you doing your music that really got me turned on to this music the way it is today. And they thank me for it. And numerous times, I'm always thanking Lawrence Holder, because if it wasn't for him and writing this play for me, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I probably wouldn't even know you at this point, because jazz.
Destiny always finds a way.
Yes.
When you were saying that, I remember meeting Monk when he lived behind Lincoln Center in the projects back there.
Yeah.
And I also remember you brought up Ossie Davis. I remember being privileged on two folds to introduce Ossie to two people. One was somebody came by, since I knew Ossie, we were talking about doing a movie together. But one of the persons that I knew that wanted to meet him, wanted his family to meet him, was Paul Silas.
Oh, wow. Oh.
So I took Paul Silas to New Rochelle to meet Ruby and Ossie.
Oh.
Wonderful. And then there was, I'm trying to remember now, there was another person. Oh, I was friends with a manager at that time of Dionne Warwick. The manager wanted Dionne to meet Ruby and Ossie, introducing them together.
Like I said, to have them sitting, they were like at the front table. I'm acting in front of these icons, this one-man show, and they were believing it.
But you see, when you met them and they were icons, it was the start of you being an icon. So now there's a whole lot of people that are saying, "Oh, I know Ron Neal."
It's amazing that it has become that to that. But it's been a wonderful, blessed journey, and I'm so thankful to God for family, friends, the arts, and what has happened in my life to get me to this point. It's not been all easy down easy street, but I'm here. I'm here, and I'm still
There's a lot of people that are not.
and I'm still doing the art, and still I've got. You said what's in the future? The future is to do concerts. I have to. At 71 years old, I have to record my album. I've been singing these great jazz standards. You've been to a couple of my concerts. I've been
Mhm.
singing these great jazz standards, and I want to record them and put them out there because I think I do have a certain sound that needs to be perpetuated for eternity. And if I don't do it now, it won't be. When you go into the studio, then you can get to the real nitty gritty of recording and making it happen very special for the ear.
Although you just make sure your family have the rights to your image, with i.e., they now producing albums of people who have been long dead. Isn't that something?
Uh,
This has been a wonderful conversation, and I do thank you so much for being part of this episode of my
I,
show.
I don't want to cut you off, but I think there was something that I was supposed to share with you. I just want to say that I've been working with Ishmael Reed for 30 years now, and he's one of the greatest writers of all time for me, one of the finest satirists, political theater person there is out here. And it's been just an honor to work with him as directing his plays. I've directed over 8 of his plays over the years. And just recently, I've done the publicity as well as the production coordinating for this new play called The Conductor, which ran at Theater for the New City. I don't know when this program is coming out, but where I got to acknowledge at this time and date that we're up with Ishmael Reed's play, which closes this weekend, and it's been a phenomenal experience. He calls it the living newspaper, and that it truly is a living newspaper in theater. So people, if you haven't seen it or heard about it, you will, because Ishmael always gets his stuff published, like this play, The Slave Who Loved Caviar, and the Aryan Life Among the Aryans. They're published right now. We just did a book signing for his at Powerhouse Books in Dumbo, and it's phenomenal to be there with this genius and interviewing him about his life and his work. So I just want to give a shout out to this great man that I've worked with. And I wouldn't have known him if it wasn't for Miguel Algarin, the late, great Miguel Algarin, who got me to know all these fantastic writers and bring all these writers to me, like Amiri Baraka, Sekou Sundiata, and the list that goes on to so many great writers that I've been working with over the years. So I'm truly blessed and highly favored. And your friendship also, Stephen, has really been a wonderful part of the journey. At this point, remember our good friend Kevin Thurborn, who's no longer with us. He said to me, he said, "We're going to get you a George Floyd award at Town Hall." I said, "Yeah, okay, cool, brother. I'll see you later." and and then he said, "Yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get it." I said, "Okay, cool." And then it wasn't until that day at Town Hall that I realized what I was getting myself into. It was just phenomenal just to be in that building and to be honored along with all these great people who are standing up for righteousness and in the arts to perpetuate us as a people. And I thank you and Love and everyone else associated with the organization for bringing me in that respect and showing me that love.
We were honored to have you. We are honored to honor you and your life work. And I thank you so much for being on the show. That's it for the show about stuff. The Stephen Davis Show will be back with you again with another episode. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed this show about stuff. See you next time.